It's the activated AF1. First and foremost, I'm going to say peace, power, and soul. We are the Futuritarians. Shout out to UNONC, Brother Zarea. Shout out to the brother Cosmos. Yeah, we the Futuritarians. We moving forward. This video is going to be on manipulating atoms, electrodes, and electrons from the upper dimensions. Now, what do you mean by that, AF1? What I mean by manipulating them is manipulating the whole structure that's around you on a micro level. When you're dealing with the microverse. The microverse on a micro level, manipulating, controlling, and structuring a different form of something that could be broke down on a micro level. See, when you're dealing with these atoms and you're dealing with these electrodes, electrons, these nucleus, you can break them down and manipulate them for a future agenda. Because the only way you can manipulate this stuff, right, is that you have to be tapped in to a higher frequency in the future, being tapped in. Now you deal with the word atom. Everybody's affiliated with Adam and Eve. What was that metaphor from the Bible dealing with Adam and Eve? Adam and Eve was first and second. Allegedly, the first people that was on the planet dealing with that doctrine was Adam, and the second one after that was Eve. So you deal with atom because when you deal with these people in power back in the day. When you deal with the A, what is the A? The A is the one. The first one on the planet. See, when you're dealing with these atoms, anything can be manipulated, altered, and shifted in this 3D realm when you tap into the upper realms, the upper dimensions, going from the 13th dimension down, pulling from the 14th dimension. Now, if you go back to the Israelite doctrine and you go back, what's their logo? Their logo is the Star of David, which is the Star of David is shaped as what? 6 points. The 6 points equal what? The atom. The 6 points equal the atom. And see, now when you're dealing with the Israelite doctrine, you're dealing with the Star of David. The Star of David means multiple things. It doesn't just mean atom. There's other things that the Star of David means, but it really doesn't matter when you're moving forward because you're moving past all that stuff. Well, we're moving past all that stuff, breaking down the Star of David, breaking down, the symbolism of it because it means multiple things. See, but going back to manipulating these atoms, when you got people around you, you got different type of energies, different type of life forces that are around you every day, and you can manipulate them for the best you. What do you mean by that, AF1? The best you. The best you is being tapped into your future self. Because if you tapped into your future self, this sometimes it gets confusing, so I have to bring it down to a 3D perspective. When you tap into your higher self, the only way you can move through these dimensions and get to the highest dimension and actually make universes, structures, and make whole galactical systems, you have to be tapped into each person in each dimension that you are. Because once you do that, then if you're stuck in the 8th dimension or the 9th dimension, you got to tap into the ones. And then once you tap into the ones on all dimensions, then you'll start moving forward from that dimension that you're stuck in. You'll start moving forward and going up further and further and further. And some people get complacent in each dimension. That's why when we scan people, the organic cyborg, when we scan people, it's real critical because then we know that we're not wasting time with them. Because when you live in this 3D reality, you waste time when you mess with certain people for a certain amount of time and you didn't know what their future was going to be like or what it will amount up to. That's why scanning is so important. But going back to the atoms is a life force of energy that can be manipulated and actually moved. That's where you get the portals from. When you manipulate the water atom can be manipulated. The sun atom can be manipulated. The way you manipulate the sun atom is being tapped in to the rays, because then you can manipulate the atoms to what? Attach to your electrodes and electrons and your body and your mind. That's one way of manipulating the atom. The electrodes and electrons, they had to be here first. If you guys want to do research on that, I don't really do too much research. Everything comes to us. We don't really look for nothing because we don't need to. We're at that point where we don't need to look. It just comes to us. But dealing with the electrodes and the electrodes and electrons, they play a big factor on you manipulating this 3D realm to the best of your ability to move you and your soul forward into the future. Because the electrodes and electrons, they're going to be out here. They had to be here. They had to be here. Um, when you're dealing with the gases, when you're dealing with the gases in the beginning of the universe, you're dealing with the gases, and you have to have the electrodes and electrons to do what? To move the gases, because they had to move the gases to form what? To form matter, to start forming these planets, to start forming these moons, these rock shapes. Electrodes and electrons play a big factor, but since they were one of the first things that was here in the beginning of time, then it plays a factor in your body, also in your mind. The electrodes and electrons play a factor in your mind, and it play a factor in your body. Activate them to get certain neurotransmitters in your mind to start kicking like pistons in a car. Start kicking like pistons in a car. The electrodes and electrons play a big factor in moving forward into the future. In the book of Revelations where they say the elect. See, because the whole Bible is a code book. It's not literal. People think that the book is literal. Even dealing with the book of Revelations and down, all that's encoded. It was embedded with a galactical code system. So when you're dealing with the elect, the electrodes, the electrons, activating those electrodes and electrons in your body, also activating your junk DNA, and stuff won't affect you in this lifetime dealing with this rental car body, because this body ain't nothing but a rental vessel for the future. Nothing but a rental vessel for the future. That's all it is. You know. Plus the electrodes and electrons they deal with the light spectrum, because they're in everything. There's no way that this universe can be formed through electrodes and electrons and not the electrodes and electrons be in everything. Just like you got atoms, you got nucleuses, you got things that are in the microverse that really play a factor, because just because something's small doesn't mean it's not important. Just because something is small does not mean it's not important. So you have to always be on recognizing something like that, dealing with stuff that's small, dealing with the microverse. The microverse, like I always use that analogy of Ant-Man. When Ant-Man, he had to shrink himself and go into the quantum realm, and that's a good um, um, way of putting things. Sometimes is with movies to give you guys a better image, a better physical image of what I'm trying to say, dealing with the electrodes, electrons. Yeah, you go back to that movie Ant-Man, you notice that he had to shrink himself a couple of times to go what? Go deal with the microverse. Man, I like that movie because it just shows you how something small can be very important. Something that small can be very important. Dealing with the lasers, with the light lasers. The laser is a powerful, powerful light energy source. There's lasers out here that can penetrate through titanium. Now, when you're dealing with titanium and you're dealing with these high metals, and you have a spectrum of light that can get so hot and move so fast that it can penetrate it. But will it penetrate it as a 2? Will it penetrate it as a 3, 4, 5, or a 6? The only way it's going to penetrate that thick titanium metal is going to be through a 1 spectrum, a 1 form, because you got ones in the quantum realm and then you have zeros. And ones manipulate zeros, and then you have the ones that's with the ones. There's no in between when it comes to this stuff. Dealing with the 1 laser light spectrum. The 1 laser light spectrum It's real critical when you're dealing with tearing up tearing up particles and detaching atoms, because when you go to the microverse, they just split up from each other. I'm gonna give you an example. When you're dealing with atoms, you can't destroy atom unless you use some type of radiation, radiation, flames, fire. When you use anything that just is a physical form, they just they detach from each other. So I'm gonna give you an example. So say like somebody got stabbed, so the atoms in your body just pulled apart from each other, because that's how small they are. They pulled apart. They weren't destroyed. Your atoms weren't destroyed. They're just every atom plays a critical part on what it's supposed to do. If something like that happens to your body, it's playing out a role. Uh, um it's playing out a 3D sitcom. So if you get stabbed and your atoms, they just split apart. You don't destroy them, and there's only a couple of ways you can destroy an atom. Playing like playing like well, just even going back to the DNA activation, the slight DNA, the missing strain of DNA is always going to be something it's going to always be there, but it's just an empty strain where it can be activated. And then what happens when it gets activated? All your DNA. It's just like I'm trying to give you guys a 3D example of activation. Um, well, when you're dealing with these movies, right? You got these movies, and give you Transformers, for example. I like using Transformers because that movie was put out here for a reason too. When you had I forgot what that crystal. It was a crystal called something. And Optimus, they needed to activate Optimus Prime, because Optimus Prime, he wasn't um he was actually dead, but they had to resurrect him with it was like some crystal. I forgot what it was called. Um, but anyway, and they had to reactivate Optimus Prime. That's the thing with your DNA. That's why you are born with limitations. You're born with limitations because your DNA, your strain was missing for a reason, because everybody's not worthy of AKA God like powers. Everybody's not worthy of God like powers. So that's why that strain was missing, and they called it junk. You know why they called it junk? Because they want you to look at it as junk, not looking at it as being activated, not looking as something that could be activated. Now going back, uh, I did a video about the moon. Off the subject, I did a video about the moon probably about a year ago. And I was talking about how the moon was a spaceship like Death Star, and it was placed there. And in order for you to move the moon, you have to be what? Worthy of activating the moon, because the moon can be moved. A lot of people's like, how's the moon going to be moved? How would you do that? Just like moving in the planetary system. That's why in Star Wars they have put that thing called the Death Star. And if you notice that the Death Star looks just like the moon, and what was the Death Star doing? It was moving through the solar systems. It could relocate. It could relocate in a solar system, right? But one thing they didn't show you in Star Wars is that you can actually, in the future, we can actually open up portals and move a whole planetary system through one big portal, which they call wormholes. And see, once you get to that, but people are not worthy to. That's why everything in this three-dimensional realm takes time, dealing with this prism, aka prison, because everybody's not worthy of going through a portal. If you're not activated and you try to go through a portal, your DNA, you're dealing with that type of power, upper dimensional power. Your DNA, your atoms, your electrodes, electrons, they will shred into nothing, because you're not worthy, and they don't want those people coming over there with that mindset, the mindset of information, the mindset of religion, the mindset of spirituality, the mindset of going backwards, the mindset of always using somebody else's doctrine. That's old. They've been through this already. Well, we've been through this already. We've been through all this already. This is just being played out. All this stuff already played out into the future. All this is already played out into the future. Now that we back from the future, putting everything back on the forefront, now people just gonna have to sit back and wait. And I'm finna doing it. But the next video, my brother Zareyas, UNONC, shout out to the brother Zareyas. He had did a pause video, and I'm finna break that down also. The pause video. Now I'll be looking forward for that. That might actually that I'm gonna put that. That's gonna be the next video. Is a pause video breaking down the symbolism to that. And back to this video dealing with the junk DNA activation. So, because what you see on this picture right here, once you activate it, it turns into a light spectrum. Now, this is a true story because I'm just gonna let y'all know, because I already had said this on the internet. But when the spirits, when spirits come around, the Futuritarians, what they see is a big ball of light. So it's similar as looking at the sun without shades on. So when these spirits come around us, they flee because it's too much light, it's too much power. So I'm gonna give you an example. If we was to go, if one of the Futuritarians would have activated Futuritarians, if we was to go into a haunted house right now, all the spirits in that house would flee because all they would see is light. So to give you an example, from the outside of the house, the spirits would leave the house, so the outside of the house, it'd just be like every window would just be lit up. That's all they see. How can you be a spirit and act in an environment like that? That's just the same way if you had a mini sun, the size of your lamp sitting in your living room. Would you be able to sit in your living room and be comfortable? You got this ball of radiation light just beaming on your damn forehead, just tearing your skin up. You won't. You have to flee. That's the same thing with these spirits, man. When our DNA is activated, spirits don't even mess with us. You know what I mean? All they bow down. That's what I mean. Bow down. Even the spiritual realm bows down to this because they know in the future we're controlling everything. Because in the future, our future self can make them disappear. Make that spirit poof. Poof. And that's the 2 zeros for the loopies. The 2 zeros for the loopies. Poof. The spirit realm has no effect on activation. Their effect means 0. You have the DNA strain that could be activated, and only way you can get your DNA activated is once you figure out where the source is at and where all this intel's coming from, and then you just have to tap in and go. Know where to go. You have to know where to go. Simple as that. Dealing with the organic ore shield. The organic ore shield, it is, one teacher said it's a ball of water around you. He was close. But it's not a ball of water, it's a light spectrum. I saw my ore shield, and I saw it. The day I saw it, I almost tripped. I was actually working with water, and this is like a couple of weeks after I knew it was activated. It's not water. It's the light spectrum, which you're dealing with the rainbow. So it's the same thing as seeing a rainbow. When you look in the sky and it rains and you see a rainbow, that or you can actually, when I was working with water, and I actually saw a shield around me. It was a rainbow shield. You know what I mean? So it was a rainbow shield. So what I'm saying is that, I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I already know what the organic aura shield looks like. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. That's when people hear me talk, they think I'm just talking out the side of my neck, and I'm not. Over the last 11 years, all this stuff happened for a reason. The last 11 years, man, I've seen so much. I'm talking about nothing that's dealing with the streets, nothing that's dealing with spirituality. It's all about stuff that's coming with next, stuff that's next. Seen a lot. I seen the aura shield. I know what it looks like. It's a rainbow spectrum of color. So when you're dealing with the microverse, going back to electrodes and electrons and the atoms, when you're dealing with the microverse, one reason why they wanted to JB you, they wanted to go inside you, is because when you're dealing with something that small, your body is just like the earth. It has a atmosphere. Once you activate it, your body builds up an atmosphere. It's made out of radiation. It's not made out of heat. So your body builds up an atmosphere. So if you have something small that's dealing on like a nano level, and you can't see it, and it gets close to your body, it's going to evaporate just like a small meteorite evaporates in the atmosphere. So then what's the next step? Exterior not work. working. So what's next? Interior. Dealing with your organic ore shield. The reason why the one's so powerful and there's nothing on the planet messing with that number is because even when you go to the hospital, what do? Do they hook all your fingers up? No, they don't hook all your fingers up. When you go to the hospital, they hook it up to what? Your index finger, the one, because that's how strong one finger is on your whole body. One finger on your whole body. That's the representation of the one power. Now, when you go to the hospital and they put um, that that scanner on your finger, because it's nothing but a scanner. It's scanning your heart rate, it's scanning your temperature, it's scanning a lot of stuff. It's a scanner. So I told everybody we are walking organic cyborgs. We know if you have a genuine heart, and we know if you don't. So that's the power of the one. The power of the one is so powerful. You only need one scanner on one finger to scan your whole body. They might put a couple little, you know, sticky scanners on your body and stuff like that. But the whole point I'm making is they always make sure to put that on your finger, on your index finger, on that one, because that one's so powerful. They know this. They've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. Who do you think taught them this? We did. We taught them this. And now everything's being back rebuilt, putting on the forefront. So yeah, that's why the one's so powerful when you're dealing with the scanning system also, because they use the one to scan your body. You know what we use? We use our retinas. We use our retinas. We use our six senses to scan people. See, going back to the six senses, when I did the video on the sixth sense, what you got? Touch, taste, sight, sound, smell, and then activation, because activation is the sixth sense. See, people are walking around here with five senses, right? Activation is the sixth sense. Going back to the Israelite Star of David, when it has 6 points, that also can be symbolic into them tapping into the sixth sense, which is the sixth sense, the activation. Then you have the 5-point star that deals with the man, the body, the five senses, and all that stuff. So the whole point I'm making is the sixth sense is activation, because that's you starting to break out the circle and turn into a one. The six is a one breaking out of a circle. Broke this down 4 years ago. All this stuff makes sense. It's not like when you go on Google and you can't find it, that's not my problem. You know what I'm saying? Because we know this stuff makes sense, because when you come with intel and you come with stuff that's next, it has to make sense, because if it makes sense in the future, you can make it make sense in the present. Dealing with the one scanning system. Yup, this is what happens when futuritarians turn their back on anybody. Don't matter. Don't matter what race you are, doesn't matter what color you are. When we turn our back on you, this is exactly what they're gonna do. We got our back turned. We're in minding our own business, but they just have to come over here and look to see what we're doing, because they understand power within the cyberverse. The power is within the one. It's always been like that. This ain't nothing new. It's just that AF1's out here revealing this stuff and putting everything on the forefront, exposing these ones that's out here to manipulate zeros. And a lot of them getting mad right now, but I don't care, because you can't touch this. Doom, 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 can't touch this. But that's why I got this pick. I'm going to leave off with this. So when the futuritarians turn their back on somebody, this is what they're going to do. I don't care, but I'm just saying, like, when you activate it, you already know what their future consists of. This is what they're going to do. Yeah, shout out to the brothers Reyes, UNONC. Put a fire live out. I think that was yesterday on Podbean. I will be going live. We'll be going live Wednesday on Podbean. That is, don't quote me on this one, because I had to talk to Zareyas. That will be, I think, 8 p.m. Central Time. Not sure, but we definitely will be on Podbean Wednesday. Come check us out. If you guys got any questions, just call in. You can tap in. That's UNONC on Podbean, the Futuritarians. And we're just going to keep moving forward. And if you guys want to hit us up, you can also hit us up on Facebook. Facebook didn't let me put the 1 in there. Like, that's Facebook for you, because I got AFONE, AF1. Every time I tried to put the 1 on there as the numeral system, Facebook would not let me save that name. So that's why I got it AFONE for people that was wondering why I don't have the 1 right there. But that's the reason why. Maybe in the future they will let me do it, or in the future I'm gonna have to force them to let me do it. But yeah, it's the activated AF1. Peace, power, and soul. If you like the way the world is, don't like, don't share, don't subscribe. If you want it to alter, subscribe at the speed of light.